Let me ask you something nobody else will. How many times this week did you say something you regretted? Lose your temper over something small? Spend money you knew you shouldn't? Lie in bed at 2 a.m. with a mind you couldn't shut off? If any of that hit close to home, this is for you. I used to think self-control was something you either had or you didn't, like a personality trait, something genetic. I was wrong. Because 2,000 years ago, a man born into slavery, who owned nothing, controlled nothing, not even his own body, figured out how to become completely free. Not free from his circumstances, free inside them. His name was Epictetus, and the 4 things he mastered are the exact 4 things quietly destroying most people's lives today. Their mouth, their mood, their money, their mind. I'm going to walk you through all 4. Straight, no fluff. Let's go. I want you to think about the most painful thing someone has ever said to you. Not a punch, not a betrayal, a sentence, maybe just a few words. I'll bet you still remember it, word for word. That's how powerful the mouth is. Words don't just hurt in the moment, they install themselves. They become the voice in your head that shows up years later, when you're about to take a risk, when you're trying to love someone, when you're standing in front of a mirror. And here's what should scare you. You're doing this to other people right now, and more importantly, to yourself. The average person speaks 16,000 words a day. 16,000. How many of those are building something? And how many are slowly burning it down? I used to think being vocal was a strength. I had opinions about everything. I vented constantly, thinking releasing it meant processing it. I wasn't processing anything. I was just spreading it. Then came an argument with someone I deeply cared about. I said something cruel, weaponized truth. And I watched the damage happen in real time. Something in their eyes went dark. That was the moment I understood what Epictetus meant. Better to trip with the feet than with the tongue. A physical fall, you heal. But words leave marks no medicine can reach. So how do you fix this? Not with willpower, with a system. The Stoics called it the gate of 3. Before any words leave your mouth, they must pass through 3 gates. Is it true? Is it necessary? Is it kind? If your words can't pass all 3, stay silent. And chosen silence is not emptiness. It is one of the most powerful statements you can make. But mouth mastery isn't just stopping the bad. It's starting the good, especially how you speak about yourself. That inner monologue running 24 hours a day, that's speech too. And most people talk to themselves in ways they'd never speak to someone they love. I'm so stupid, I can't do anything right. You'd never say that to a friend. You say it to yourself, without hesitation, without mercy. Marcus Aurelius used his journal to train his inner voice, direct, honest, but always in service of growth. That's what I want you to do. Here's your practice, 7 days. Every morning say 3 things out loud. 1 thing you're grateful for, 1 thing you're committed to today, 1 thing you genuinely respect about yourself. It'll feel awkward. Do it anyway. Your words don't just describe your world, they create it. Master this gateway, and you'll be shocked how much of your life shifts without changing anything else. Next, the part most people think they understand, but almost nobody does. Your emotions, and how to become so unshakable that nothing life throws at you can knock you down. That's coming up. Let me tell you something that took me years to accept. Nobody is making you feel anything. I know that sounds harsh, but stay with me, because this single idea once it truly lands, will change everything about how you experience your life. Most of us treat emotions like weather, something that just happens to us. Someone is rude, we get angry, plans fall apart, we spiral. Someone pulls away, we collapse. But here's what the Stoics discovered, and modern neuroscience has confirmed. Your emotions are not reactions, they are interpretations. There's a fraction of a second between what happens to you and how you feel about it. Viktor Frankl, who survived Nazi concentration camps and lost nearly everything, called this the last human freedom. If you found that space in a concentration camp, what's your excuse? Here's the brutal reality. Someone doesn't text you back. That's a fact. Neutral, empty of meaning. But your brain immediately writes a story. They're ignoring me. They're angry. They don't care anymore. Within 30 seconds, you're not reacting to what happened. You're reacting to a story your own mind invented. This happens dozens of times every day, and most people never catch it. So here's the practice. When a strong emotion rises, stop. Separate the fact from the story. Say it out loud if you have to. The fact is they didn't reply. The story I'm telling myself is they're done with me. The moment you name the story, you weaken its grip. Then ask yourself, is there another interpretation that's equally possible and far less destructive? You don't know why they didn't reply, and choosing the most painful explanation as if it were fact is a form of self-harm most people never recognize as a choice. Now, mood mastery is not toxic positivity. It's not suppressing what you feel. Feel the emotion fully, but don't let it make your decisions. Anger is information. It tells you something matters, that a boundary was crossed. That's valuable. But anger as a weapon against others or yourself is pure destruction. Marcus Aurelius ruled the most powerful empire on earth while dealing with betrayal, war, and the death of his own children. Every morning he reminded himself, difficulty is not a problem. It's the practice. That's the shift. Every hard emotion you face is not an obstacle to your growth. It is your growth. Your practice tonight, 3 minutes before sleep. Find one moment where your mood controlled you. Separate the fact from the story. Ask what you could have chosen instead. 30 days of this, and you will not recognize yourself. Storms don't stop. You just stop being afraid of them. Next, we're talking about the one thing that reveals your character more honestly than anything else. How you handle your money and what it's quietly saying about you right now. Here's something nobody in the personal finance world wants to say out loud. Your bank statement is a confession. Not of your income, not of your circumstances, but of your emotional state, your insecurities, your unresolved wounds, every impulsive purchase, every subscription you forgot about, every time you spent money to feel something. It's all right there, in black and white. Seneca was one of the wealthiest men in ancient Rome, and yet he wrote, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more, who is poor." He wasn't talking about frugality. He was talking about something far deeper. The difference between using money and being used by it. Think about your last impulse purchase. That thing sitting unused somewhere in your house right now. In that moment, what were you really buying? Because I'll tell you what I was buying for years. I was buying relief from stress, from boredom, from the quiet discomfort of feeling like I wasn't enough. The item didn't matter. The feeling was that the product And that's exactly how modern marketing is designed to work. Every advertisement you see is selling you an emotion first, confidence, belonging, excitement, and attaching a product to it second. Once you see that mechanism, you can't unsee it. So here's the practice that rewired my entire relationship with money. Before any non-essential purchase, pause. Ask yourself one question. Am I buying this thing, or am I buying a feeling? If it's a feeling, find another way to get it first. Go for a walk, call someone, sit with the discomfort for 10 minutes. Most of the time, the urge dissolves, and what's left is clarity. Because here's what true money mastery looks like. It's not about being cheap. It's not about deprivation. It's about alignment. Every dollar you spend is either moving you toward freedom or toward dependency. There is no neutral transaction. The Stoics practice something called voluntary discomfort. Seneca himself, despite his enormous wealth, would regularly sleep on the floor, eat simple meals, wear plain clothes, not because he had to, but to remind himself that his peace didn't depend on comfort. That practice gave him something money can't buy, the knowledge that he could lose everything and still be okay. Most people never feel that. They need the salary, the lifestyle, the status symbols just to feel stable, which means they're not free. They're just comfortable prisoners. Here's your practice. For the next 30 days, track every purchase. Not just the amount, but how you felt after. One column, what you bought. Second column, why. Third column, how you felt an hour later. What you'll discover will shock you. The purchases that brought lasting satisfaction will almost always align with your actual values. Everything else, the impulse buys, the status purchases, the emotional spending, will consistently leave you feeling empty. Money is not the goal. Money is a tool. And like any tool in the hands of someone with no self-awareness, it causes damage. In the hands of someone intentional, it builds freedom. Next, we go to the root of everything, the place where your words, your emotions, and your financial decisions all begin. Your mind, and the war being fought inside it every single moment of every day. Every battle you've ever lost in your life started here. Not in the conversation, not in the bank account, not in the relationship, in your mind, before any of it even happened. Here's what I mean. You didn't lose that opportunity because of bad luck. You lost it because somewhere in your mind a voice said you weren't ready, and you believed it without question. That voice isn't truth. It's just a tenant you forgot to evict. The Stoics had a practice called PROLOGUE, constant, vigilant attention to your own thoughts. Not meditation in the soft, passive sense. More like being a security guard at the door of your own mind. Deciding what gets in, deciding what gets thrown out. Because here's the reality. Your mind will think approximately 60,000 thoughts today. And research suggests that for most people, 80% of those thoughts are negative, and 95% are the exact same thoughts they had yesterday. You're not experiencing life. You're replaying a loop. I caught myself doing this during one of the hardest periods of my life. Same fears recycled daily. Same worst case scenarios rehearsed on repeat. Thought I was being realistic. I thought I was preparing myself. I was doing neither. I was just suffering in advance for things that never even happened. Epictetus said, "Men are disturbed not by the things which happen, but by the opinions about the things." The event isn't the problem, your mind's commentary about the event. That's what's destroying you. So here's the practice. It's called fact versus narrative. And you already got a version of it in the mood section. But at the mind level, it goes deeper. A fact is, I made a mistake at work. The narrative is, I'm incompetent. I'll get fired. I always do this. I'm not cut out for this. One sentence of fact. 5 sentences of fiction. And your nervous system responds to the fiction as if it's real, flooding your body with stress hormones, shutting down creative thinking, making you smaller. The moment you separate the fact from the narrative, the fact becomes manageable. You made a mistake. Okay, what's the next right move? That's it. That's the whole game. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The universe is change. Our life is what our thoughts make it." He ruled an empire while facing war, plague, betrayal, and personal tragedy. And every single morning he chose, deliberately, consciously, what his mind would focus on. Not because life was good, but because his mind was his. That's what I want you to claim. Your mind as your sovereign territory. No external event gets to walk in and redecorate without your permission. Here's your practice. Every time you catch a negative thought spiral, and you will multiple times today, ask 2 questions. Is this thought true? And is it useful? If it's not both, replace it, not with false positivity, with a thought that's equally honest but productive. Not everything is fine, but this is hard and I can figure it out. That single shift, practiced consistently, rebuilds the architecture of your mind over time. Your mind is the one kingdom nobody can conquer, unless you hand them the keys. Stop handing out keys. Next, we bring all 4 pillars together, and I'm going to show you what happens when they start working as one. Here's what nobody tells you about mastering these 4 things. You don't change one area of your life. You change all of them at once. Control your mouth, and your relationships transform. Control your mood, and your environment becomes calmer. Control your money, and your future opens up. Control your mind, and none of the old fears have the same power over you anymore. Epictetus did this in chains. Marcus Aurelius did this while ruling an empire. You can do this, starting today, starting now. The only question is, which one will you start with?